Greetings. I hope you're well. I just asked AI to make a video, a script or an analysis of the historical great minds in history. I haven't looked at it yet, but I think there's like 300 people in the list. And I was just wondering, I just got curious when I was looking into some great minds like Aristotle and some philosophical thinkers like who are the smartest philosophers, and then I looked at a connection between them and composers, and then all of a sudden it got huge. And I'm just going to read off what's been written in my phone. It's a 30-page document. It's by Cloud, by Anthropic, so there might be some biases. I don't know. It's composed of men and women. I'm just going to read what it said. Yeah, because I would like to know, and I think at the end it ranks the top 50 minds. So let's do it. Let's see what the AI thinks about humanity and its contribution. 30 pages. Okay, it's here. Minds of History, Ultimate Edition. Full name, origin, contribution, defining quote, global impact rank. 17 sections, 300 plus figures. Philosophers, writers, scientists, playwrights, composers, artists, actors, musicians, athletes, political leaders, dictators, kings and queens, religious figures, journalists, business titans, tech innovators, and content creators. Women will be listed separately within each section. The gaps reflect history's exclusions, not the compilers. Rank numbers shown in gold, cross-reference the final ranking table, who has the greatest impact on history. The binding thread, what connects them all? The question is, what does it take to change the world? The answer is every person on this list, saint, tyrant, artist, scientist, athlete, creator, shared one thing. They refused the boundary of what was known, accepted, permitted, or possible. Socrates refused to stop questioning. Newton refused to accept mystery. Shakespeare refused to leave human experience unnamed. Hitler refused the constraint of morality. Tupac refused the constraint of silence. Musk refuses the constraint of earth. The binding thread is not virtue. Some of these people are monsters. It is not genius. Some are ordinary people who found themselves at a hinge of history. The binding thread is impact. The refusal to leave things as they were. The paradox. The list proves that impact is morally neutral. Genghis Khan and Gandhi both changed the world. Hitler and Einstein both reshaped the century. The question for the living is not just how do I have impact, but impact toward what? That's the question no ranking can answer, only you can. The pattern, every figure who left a positive, lasting legacy shared three qualities. They worked at the frontier of what was known or accepted. They endured sustained rejection, suffering, or opposition before breakthrough. They produced something that could outlast them, a text, a system, a song, a movement, a building, a company. I'm curious as to whether Edison and Tesla are in the list and people like that. Carnegie, people like this, kind of like the fringe people that I might have been thinking about to kind of prompt it to, but whatever, we're here. I'm just going to start. Philosophers, we're going to start with philosophers and thinkers. So, the men. Socrates of Athens invented the examined life and the dialectical method, was tried for corrupting youth and impiety, and chose death over exile. The unexamined life is not worth living. Plato of Athens, born Aristocles, founded the academy, argued reality is a realm of eternal perfect forms, wrote 36 dialogues that define Western philosophy. Wise men speak before they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. Aristotle, of Stagira, tutored Alexander the Great, founded logic, biology, ethics, politics, poetics, systemized more knowledge than any single person in history. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. I thought he didn't say the last part, but I guess he did. Hong Chu, Confucius, wandered China teaching virtue, ritual, and right relationships. His Analects shaped East Asian civilization for 2,500 years. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Lao Tzu, or Li Er, wrote the Tao Te Ching in 81 verses, founded Taoism. Wu Wei, which means effortless action, remains one of humanity's deepest ideas. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Epicurus of Samos founded Epicureanism, simple pleasures, close friendship, and freedom from fear as the components of the good life. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you do not have, or what you have not. Marcus Aurelius, Antonius Augustus, ruled the Roman Empire at its height while privately writing Stoic meditations that were never meant to be published, now a world classic. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Thomas Aquinas, the greatest scholastic philosopher, fused Aristotle with Christian theology. His Summa Theologica is still the intellectual backbone of the Catholic Church. The things that we love tell us what we are. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote The Prince, the first modern analysis of political power, stripped of moral pretension. Invented political science. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Michel Euquem de Montaigne invented the personal essay and secular self-examination. His essays are the most readable and honest self-portrait in literature. Every man carries the form of the human condition within him. Thomas Hobbes. Leviathan argued that humans surrender freedom to a sovereign in exchange for security, the founding text of political science. The life of man, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. René Descartes stripped knowledge of the single undoubtable fact of thought, invented analytical geometry, the father of modern philosophy. I think, therefore I am, cogito ergo sum. Baruch de Spinoza argued God and nature are identical. Everything follows by necessity from one infinite substance. Einstein said he believed in Spinoza's God. I have striven not to laugh at human actions, but to understand them. John Locke argued for natural rights, government by consent, and separation of church and state. The intellectual foundation of liberal democracy. The end of law is not to abolish freedom, but to preserve and enlarge it. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz co-invented calculus, disputed with Newton, invented binary arithmetic, proposed monads, arguably the last universal genius. Music is the pleasure the human experiences from counting without being aware that it is counting. I'll say that again. Music is the pleasure the human mind experiences from counting without being aware that it is counting. Francois-Marie Arouet, or known as Voltaire. The Enlightenment's supreme satirist used wit and fiction to attack religious intolerance, superstition, and tyranny across Europe. I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. David Hume. The sharpest skeptic of the Enlightenment should caution the self and induction are all philosophically unjustifiable. Reason is and ought to be the slave of the passions. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. His social contract theory and concept of natural freedom directly ignited the French Revolution and abandoned all 5 of his children. What is Rousseau's issue there? Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. Hey, Rousseau. Immanuel Kant, the pivotal modern philosopher, argued the mind actively structures experience. His categorical imperative redefined ethics. Act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Jeremy Bentham invented utilitarianism, greatest happiness for the greatest number, this philosophy, and the panopticon. His embalmed body sits at Universal College London. The greatest happiness of the greatest number is the foundation of morals and legislation. George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. History unfolds dialectically toward absolute spirit. Every major 19th century thinker was reacting to him. Marx, Kierkegaard, existentialism. The owl of Minerva spreads its wings only with the falling of the dusk. Arthur Schopenhauer, the great pessimist. Behind appearances lies blind, insatiable will, influenced Nietzsche, Wagner, Freud, and Wittgenstein. Life swings like a pendulum back and forward between pain and boredom. John Stuart Mill refined utilitarianism, wrote on liberty, the definitive defense of free expression, and championed women's suffrage 50 years early. The only freedom which deserves a name is that of pursuing our own good in our own way. Soren Abai Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism, wrote in pseudonyms about the stages of life, the leap of faith, authentic selfhood before God. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Karl Heinrich Marx analyzed capitalism's contradictions, co-wrote the Communist Manifesto. His ideas reshaped the 20th century more than any other thinkers. Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche declared God dead, called for a revelation of all values, imagined the Ubermensch, went mad at 44, was catastrophically misread by the Nazis. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. Friedrich Ludwig Gottlob Frege invented modern predicate logic and the philosophy of language. Everything from Wittgenstein to computer science flows from his work. Every good mathematician is at least half a philosopher. Sigmund Freud founded psychoanalysis. The unconscious repression, the talking cure. Most specific theories are wrong, but the framework changed everything. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to the unconscious. Bertrand Arthur William Russell, who wrote Principia Mathematica, coined Russell's paradox, campaigned for nuclear disarmament at 94, the most publicly engaged philosopher of his century. The whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves. Ludwig Joseph Johann Wittgenstein. His early work, The World is Facts, Whereof One Cannot Speak, Be Silent. His later work, That Was All Wrong, Language is a Social Practice. Whereof one cannot speak, there one must be silent. His personal favorite. Martin Heidegger. Being and Time is the most influential philosophical work of the 20th century. He was also a committed Nazi. Oh no. The two cannot be separated. Language is the house of being. Karl Raimund Popper demarcated science from pseudoscience by falsibility. In The Open Society, demolished Plato, Hegel, and Marx as fathers of totalitarianism. Our knowledge can only be finite, while our ignorance must necessarily be infinite. He sounds fun. Jean-Paul Charles Aimard Sartre. Existence precedes essence. We are condemned to radical freedom. We define ourselves through choices refused the Nobel Prize in Literature. Hell is other people. So that is a very good quote. Albert Camus confronted the absurd, universe's silence against human need for meaning, and answered with defiant, joyful revolt. Killed in a car crash at 46. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Alan Wilson Watts translated Zen, Taoism, and Vedanta for Western minds with jazz-like fluencies. His lectures still reach millions on YouTube. I also have listened to a lot of his stuff. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and simple. Michel Foucault. Power is everywhere. Knowledge is control, mapped how hospitals, prisons, and clinics discipline the modern body and mind. Where there is power, there is resistance. For the women in this category, we have Hypatia of Alexandria, the first notable woman in mathematics and philosophy, taught Neoplatonism and astronomy, murdered by a Christian mob who saw her as a pagan threat. Reserve your right to think, for even to think wrongly is better than not to think at all. That's a good one, actually. Mary Wollstonecraft, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman in 1792, applied Enlightenment principles to women, the founding text of feminist philosophy. I do not wish women to have power over men, but over themselves. Simone Lucie de Beauvoir, The Second Sex in 1949, One is not born but becomes a woman, the most important feminist work of the 20th century. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Hannah Arendt, The Origins of Totalitarianism and the Concept of the Banality of Evil Redefined Political Philosophy After the Holocaust. The sad truth is that most evil is done by people who never make up their minds to be good or evil. Yeah, that's a good one. Simone Adolphine Weil, mystic philosopher and activist who died of self-imposed starvation in solidarity with occupied France. One of the most luminous minds of the century. Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. Okay, so that's poems. I mean, sorry, that's philosophers. Next, we're at writers and poets. First, Homer. The Iliad and Odyssey are the two twin pillars on which all of Western literature rests: war, homecoming, fate, and the fully human hero. There is a time for many words, and there is also a time for sleep. Publius Virgilius Maro, or Virgil, Rome's supreme poet. The Aeneid is the empire's founding myth. Place duty and destiny above love and individual desire. Fortune favors the bold. Publius Ovidius Naso, Ovid. Metamorphosis retells every classical myth in verse of irresistible intelligence. Ars Amatoria earned him permanent exile. Dripping water hollows out stone, not through force, but through persistence. I like that. I use that. Dante Alighieri. The Divine Comedy is the single greatest poem in any language. Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso map the entire moral and theological cosmos. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Geoffrey Chaucer, The Canterbury Tales invented English literary narrative. 24 stories told by pilgrims of every class, rank, and moral condition. Time and tide wait for no man. Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra. Don Quixote, 1605, is the first modern novel and still among the greatest, about idealism, reality, and the stories we tell ourselves. Until death, it is all life. William Shakespeare, the secular Bible, 37 plays and 154 sonnets that map human experience more completely than any other writer in any language. To be or not to be? That is the question. I hope I did. I never read that one before like that. I don't know. John Milton, Paradise Lost, 1667, is the greatest English epic, justifying the ways of God to man in 10,000 lines of blank verse. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. It's hard, doesn't it? Alfred Lord Tennyson, Victorian England's defining voice in memoriam, Ulysses, and the charge of the Light Brigade shaped the emotional life of an empire. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have lost. Sorry, that this one hits a little close to home. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Germany's Shakespeare, Faust, is one of literature's great myths. Werther launched Romanticism and a wave of copycat suicides across Europe. Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Johann Christoph Friedrich von Schiller, Germany's moral playwright, wrote the Ode to Joy, set by Beethoven. His dramas made the stage a court of political and ethical judgment. Keep true to the dreams of thy youth. William Blake, poet, painter, and printmaker, a mystic visionary who raged against Newton's cold reason, industrial slavery, and organized religion. No bird soars too high if he soars with his own wings. Alexandre Dumas, in quotes I have Perret. The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo are among the most read novels in history. Adventure, loyalty, and justice at irresistible pace. All human wisdom is summed up into two words: wait and hope. Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, Russia's greatest poet and founder of modern Russian literature. Eugene Onegin, Boris Godunov, killed in a duel defending his wife's honor. Tragic. There is no happiness in the world, but there is peace and freedom. Very Russian. Honor de Balzac, The Human Comedy, 90 interconnected novels mapping Parisian society, ambition, and capitalism with encyclopedic-driven genius. But behind every great fortune, there is a crime. These people are just saying facts. Okay, Victor Marie Hugo, Les Miserables and Notre Dame de Paris, the moral conscience and thundering voice of France across the entire 19th century. To love another person is to see the face of God. Charles John Huffman Dickens gave unforgettable human faces to Victorian poverty and social injustice in prose that changed public opinion and actual legislation. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Jean-Pierre Baudelaire, Les Fleurs du Mal, invented modern poetry, finding beauty in evil, decay, and the urban abyss. Prosecuted for obscenity on publication. I don't see Proust here. Maybe he'll come up. Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, The Brothers Karamazov. No novelist has plunged deeper into the human soul. Gustave Flaubert, Madame Bovary made the perfect sentence a moral act. Oh, sorry, the quote for Dostoevsky. How could I just go over Dostoevsky's? Out of everyone, I go over Dostoevsky. He's probably so pissed at me right now. Oh my God, the writer, right? Beauty will save the world. Okay, back to Flaubert. Um, Madame Bovary made the perfect sentence a moral act, invented the style of literary realism that dominated fiction for a century. Be regular and orderly in your life, so you may be violent and original in your work. Herman Melville, Moby Dick, 1851. The strangest and most ambitious American novel, Obsession, God, and the Abyss and the White Whale. It is better to fail in originality than to succeed in imitation. Walt Whitman. Leaves of Grass invented a democratic American poetic voice, ecstatic, bodily, all-inclusive, celebrating the self and the multitude. Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy. War and Peace and Anna Karenina are the broadest canvases in fiction. Then he renounced literature entirely for radical Christian anarchism. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. Heinrich Johann Ibsen invented modern drama, A Doll's House, Hedda Gabler, Ghosts, blew open what theater was permitted to say about woman, marriage, and society. A minority may be right, a majority is always wrong. Jean-Nicolas Arthur Rimbaud produced the most extraordinary French poetry in history before age 20 in A Season in Hell and Illuminations, then walked away from literature forever. I is another. Okay, that's like not English. That's just not English, right? I is another. And you said I is another, and he's meant to be the most extraordinary French poet in history before the age of 20. I is another. I'm being mean, but come on. I mean, I is another. I is another. Another is I. I is another. What? Okay, whatever. Anton Pavlovich Chekhov, the supreme master of what goes unsaid. His plays and stories changed what fiction and theater could do. Died of tuberculosis at 44. Any idiot can face a crisis. It is the day-to-day living that wears you out. Thomas Stearns Eliot, The Wasteland, 1922, is the defining poem of modernist disillusionment. The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock changed poetry forever. I just found it interesting. It said he moved from St. Louis, Missouri to the UK, to England, and became a British subject. It's interesting. April is the cruelest month. Come on, come on, right? What is Rainy Maria Monk? The duino elegies and sonnets to Orpheus pushed German poetry to its absolute devotional and metaphysical limits. Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who only wait to see us act with beauty and courage. Oh, I don't know. I don't know where. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't. Oh, here he is. Marcel Proust. Or Proust. It's Proust, right? In Search of Lost Time. 7 volumes is the deepest investigation of memory, time, and the self in the entire history of fiction. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. James Augustine Aloysius Joyce? Ulysses. Oh, just to say James Joyce. Ulysses remade the novel. Finnegan's Wake dissolved language into something entirely new. The most technically ambitious prose writer who ever lived. I have tried to read Ulysses. I think he's an idiot. I'm just kidding. But it may be a little. It's unreadable. It's worse than Kant's critique of pure reason, honestly. Uh, The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. Because when you're... Oh, sorry, that's not his quote. That was Proust again. Proust. Joyce says, think you are escaping and run into yourself. Longest way round is the shortest way home. Franz Kafka. The Trial, The Metamorphosis, The Castle turned bureaucratic anxiety and existential dread into myth, asked his friend to burn everything. A book must be the axe for the frozen sea within us. Eric Arthur Blair, or otherwise known as George Orwell, 1984 and Animal Farm are the political fables of the century. His essays are the finest prose of his generation. In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. That's deep. It's very Orwell. That is, you can really feel the sentiment of these people. I mean, damn. In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Okay, this is a long name. George Francisco Isidoro Luis Borges Acevedo. Labyrinth, Ficciones, The Aleph. Turn the short story into pure philosophy, exploring infinity, mirrors, and the nature of fiction. I have always imagined that paradise will be a kind of library. Gabriel Jose Garcia Marquez. 100 Years of Solitude invented magical realism and gave Latin American its defining literary voice. Sold 50 million copies. A person does not die when he should, but when he can. James Arthur Baldwin. The Fire, Next Time, and Notes of a Native Son are the most morally urgent American prose of the 20th century on race, love, and what America owes. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. The tautologies. The woman of this section, Sappho of Lesbos, the greatest lyric poet of ancient Greece. Her fragments on desire, loss, and longing have survived 2,600 years and still feel immediate. Someone will remember us, I say, even in another time. Christine de Pizan, the Book of the City Ladies, in 1405, built a defense of women from history itself, the first feminist literary argument. If it were customary to send little girls to school, they would learn just as fully as boys. Aphra Behn, first professional woman writer in English, playwright, novelist, poet. Woolf said every woman who writes owes her a debt. Money speaks sense in a language all nations understand. Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin Shelley wrote Frankenstein at 18. What did you do? What did you do? Wrote Frankenstein at 18? Have a day off, right? Invented, I suppose there were no malls during her time, right? 1797 to 1851. Okay, sorry, let's get on with it. Invented science fiction and asked the enduring question about creation, responsibility, and humanity. Beware, for I am fearless and therefore powerful. Yeah, sounds like she wrote Frankenstein at 18. Sounds like it. Okay. Okay, there's a lot here. Amantine Lucille Aurore Dupin, otherwise known as George Sand, wrote 70 novels under a male name, wore trousers, and smoked in public. Lived on her own audacious terms in 19th century France. It's very French. There is only one happiness in life, to love and be loved. Charlotte Bronte. Jane Eyre, 1847, gave Victorian fiction its most defiant heroine and the most searching critique of how society treated a woman. I am no bird, and no net ensnares me. Mary Ann Evans, George Eliot. Middlemarch is widely considered the greatest novel in the English language, a complete moral vision of English provincial life. It is never too late to be what you might have been. Harriet Beecher Stowe. Uncle Tom's Cabin, 1852, sold 300,000 copies in its first year. You're talking about 1852, and it sold... Okay, sorry. his first year, Lincoln reportedly greeted her. So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war. So that was a terrible Lincoln impression. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry. The quote is, "The bitterest tears shed over graves are for words left unsaid." Emily Elizabeth Dickinson published almost nothing in her lifetime. Why is she on? I'm just kidding. Left 1,800 poems of compression, wit, and metaphysical daring that reinvented what poetry could be. I dwell in possibility. Adeline Virginia Woolf, or niece Stephen. Mrs. Dalloway, To the Lighthouse, The Waves, Invented Stream of Consciousness, A Room of One's Own is the essential feminist literary essay. A woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. Toni Morrison, Chloe Ardelia Wofford, it's in quotations. Beloved Song of Solomon, The Bluest Eye, centered Black American experience in world literature with power and beauty no one else has matched. Maya Angelou, or Margaret Annie Johnson. Is it Margaret or Marguerite? Marguerite Annie Johnson. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings gave autobiography the weight of myth. Her inaugural poem for Clinton reached 1 billion people. Wow. People will never forget how you made them feel. I'm in trouble. Sylvia Plath. The Bell Jar and Ariel exposed the pressure on women with confessional intensity that changed what poetry could say. Died at 30. I took a deep breath and listened to the old brag of my heart. I am, I am, I am. And I, Nin from France, her diaries, 60 years of them, it's a lot of diaries, a lot, and erotic fiction explored female desire and self-creation with a candor unprecedented for her time. We do not grow absolutely chronologically. We grow sometimes in one dimension and not in another. Okay, that's that section. I'm interested to see where Cloud puts Anne Frank. That's one of my favorite people in history. So yeah, playwrights, men. Aristophanes, the father of comedy. His 11 surviving plays, The Clouds, The Birds, Lysistrata, are the original political satire, and he attacks Socrates on stage. His thoughts high thoughts must have high language. Yeah, I like that. Malory, Jean-Baptiste Poquelin, sorry. The greatest comic playwright in French. Tartuffe, the misanthrope, the miser, died on stage during a performance of Le Malade Imaginaire. The greater the obstacle, the more glory in overcoming it. William Shakespeare. 37 plays spanning, I think that's the second time they put it in. No, that's not. That's 37 plays spanning tragedy, comedy, and history. Hamlet, Lear, Macbeth, Othello, The Tempest, the complete canon of human theater. All the world's a stage. George Bernard Shaw. Pygmalion, St. Joan, Heartbreak House, Man and Superman. The wittiest social critic in the history of English drama. A big statement. Nobel Prize 1925, fact up, I guess. Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Samuel Barclay Beckett. Waiting for Godot is the defining play of the 20th century. Two men wait for someone who never comes. Nothing happens twice. Ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again. Fail again, fail better. Eugen Berthold Friedrich Brecht invented epic theater, Mother Courage, the Threepenny Opera. Oh no. The Verfremdungseffekt which means alienation, made audiences think rather than feel. Art is not a mirror held up to reality, but a hammer with which to shape it. Arthur Asher Miller. Death of a Salesman and The Crucible, about McCarthyism, are the two most performed American plays. Was married to Marilyn Monroe. Damn, pretty good pull right there. A good newspaper is a nation talking to itself. Tennessee Williams, or Thomas Lanier Williams III. A Streetcar Named Desire. Sorry, I was going to say Desiree. And CANON, A Hot Tin Roof, defined American drama's obsession with desire, denial, and the cruelty of the American South. I don't want realism, I want magic. Okay, Tennessee. Eugene Gladstone O'Neill. Long Day's Journey into Night is the most devastating American family drama. Nobel Prize in 1936 founded serious American theater. Man is born broken. He lives by mending. The grace of God is glue. Harold Pinter invented the Pinteresque. Of course he did. He'd name it after yourself. Menace beneath mundane conversation. The birthday party. The caretaker. Betrayal. Redefined English drama. There are some things one remembers even though they may never have happened. Yeah, well, that's cold. Alzheimer's, isn't it? Okay, woman. Lorraine Vivian Hansberry. A Raisin in the Sun is the defining work of African-American theater. Died of pancreatic cancer at 34. Do I remain a revolutionary? Intellectually, without a doubt. That's a bit self-pandering. But I love Hansberry. She's great. Sidney Poitier, you know. Carol Churchill, Top Girl, Serious Money, Cloud Nine. She's still alive. Cloud Nine, her plays explore gender, capitalism, and power structures with structural inventiveness unmatched in contemporary drama. I'm going to do something. I'm not going to be a good woman. Oh no. Afra Ben wrote 19 plays, including The Rover, proved women could write commercially for the stage at a time when they could barely own property. Money, that's quite ironic. Money speaks sense in a language all nations understand. Okay, we're getting into heavy hitters, mathematicians and scientists. Let's go. Pythagoras of Samos proved the theorem bearing his name, proposed number as the structure of reality, the founding figure of Western mathematics. There is geometry in the humming of the strings. Archimedes of Syracuse. Calculated pi. Calculated pi. You imagine putting that on your resume. Calculated pi. Calculated pi. Okay, Archimedes of Syracuse, calculated pi. Invented infinitesimal calculus methods 1,800 years before Newton. Designed war machines killed by a Roman soldier during the sack of Syracuse. Give me a lever long enough, and I shall move the world. I believe him. I believe him. Euclid of Alexandria. Elements axiomatized geometry in 13 books. The longest used textbook in history. Still taught essentially unchanged 2,300 years later. He has a record for 200. Think about that. No one could. It's taken them 2,300 years. They still can. There is no royal road to geometry. Nicolaus Copernicus placed the sun at the center of the solar system. That'll get you killed back then. The heliocentric model displaced humanity from the cosmic center and launched a scientific revolution. Finally, we shall place the sun himself at the center of the universe. Galileo Galilei, the father of empirical science, first used the telescope astronomically, confirmed Copernicus, the first great battle of science versus religious authority, and yet it moves. That's his quote, and yet it moves. Sir Isaac Newton. Gravity, laws of motion, calculus, optics make the universe lawful in a single framework. Also spent 30 years of alchemy and biblical prophecy. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Michael Faraday discovered electromagnetic induction and the laws of electrolysis, gave us the electric motor and dynamo, the self-educated genius who lit the modern world. Nothing is too wonderful to be true if it be consistent with the laws of nature. I was going to say something witty, but I can't. Charles Robert Darwin. On the Origin of Species by Natural Selection, 1859, the most consequentialist ideal in biology. Took 20 years to publish because he knew what it would do. Nothing is too wonderful to be, from so simple a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful, I'm not respect to Charles Darwin. I'm sorry. Okay, let's do this again. From so simple a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful have been, and are being evolved. He speaks weird. It wasn't me, it was him. He's trying to be... From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful have been and are being evolved. Talk English, Darwin. Johann Mendel. I like this one. Discovered the laws of genetic inheritance in a monastery garden through pea plant experiments. Ignored for 35 years, then vindicated completely. This is the most apt quote. My time will come. It will, just 35 years after it's due, but it did come. My time will come. James Clerk Maxwell. Unified electricity, magnetism, and light in 4 equations. Einstein said it was the most profound change in physics since Newton. From Edinburgh. Wealthy landed family child. Thoroughly conscious ignorance is the prelude to every real advance in science. It's a good one. Nikola Tesla. Here they go. Developed AC electricity and the rotating magnetic field. Invented the radio, died alone, and broke, while Edison died famous. Musk named his company, yeah, we know, after him. The present is theirs, the future for which I really worked is mine. Albert Einstein. Special and general relativity remade space, time, and gravity. E equals mc squared changed everything. Refugee from Nazism who warned Roosevelt about the bomb. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Niels Henrik David Bohr. Is it Heinrich or Henrik? Or is it Niels Heinrich David Bohr? Okay. Restructured the atom. Restructured the atom. Not so nonchalant, just saying these things is absurd. Restructured the atom and co-founded quantum mechanics. Just gets better. And co-founded okay. Which still resists comfortable interpretation 100 years later. If quantum mechanics hasn't profoundly shocked you, you haven't understood it yet. Just they're shooting shot. They're just talking so much trash, But you're not even smart enough to understand even what they're even saying, right? And that's just one thing they've said. Could you imagine living with these people? Having breakfast with Bohr, with Niels Heinrich David Bohr, or this guy Werner Karl Heisenberg, or the two of them together, and you're eating your eggs, and you got to deal with just want a boiled egg, and he's saying the uncertainty principle. The more precisely you know a particle's position, the less precisely you can know its momentum. Certainty is gone forever. The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist. He's fun, isn't he? He's fun. Julius Robert Oppenheimer built the atomic bomb, watched the Trinity test, quoted the Bhagavad Gita. Spent the rest of his life trying to limit nuclear proliferation after proliferating. Yeah, what? The Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Mathison Turing invented theoretical computing, cracked Enigma, and shortened World War II by years. Asked if machines can think, chemically castrated by the state he saved. We can only see a short distance ahead, but we can see plenty there that needs to be done. Stephen William Hawking. Don't cancel me. Please, I know he's in the files. Please. Okay. It's crazy that some of these people, it's crazy, right? Transformed our understanding of black holes, Hawking radiation, and the Big Bang. Produced landmark cosmology while completely paralyzed for 50 years. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. That's well said, given his predicament. Woman, Hypatia of Alexandria, taught mathematics and astronomy at the Library of Alexandria. Her murder marked the symbolic end of classical antiquity. Reserve your right to think, for even to think wrongly is better to not think than to not think at all. Okay, I've seen that before. So it's interesting to see the people who make it into multiple sections. And I think they gave Shakespeare a different quote, so clearly this woman, the Hypatia of Alexandria, they're not very... Cloud doesn't think fondly of having more than just that one quote. Lady Augusta King, Countess of Lovelace, wrote the first computer algorithm for Babbage's analytical engine. A century before the computer existed, recognized computing's potential for music and art. The analytical engine weaves algebraic patterns as the jacquard loom weaves flowers and leaves. Florence Nightingale transformed nursing during the Crimean War, using meticulous data, invented modern hospital design, and was the first to use statistical data visualization in medicine. I attribute my success to this. I never gave or took any excuse. Marie Skłodowska Curie discovered radioactivity. Some of these things I'm trying to casually read. I can't. Discovered radioactivity, polonium and radium. First person to win 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. Died from her own research. This is the craziest flex I've ever read. What? Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Where is she? She's from Warsaw, Poland. Studied in secret under Russian. What a fascinating woman. Wow. Marie Skłodowska Curie. Wow. No, sure. From Bavaria. Einstein called her the most significant creative mathematical genius yet produced. Her theorem linking symmetry and conservation laws underlies all of modern physics. My methods are really methods of working and thinking. This is why they have crept in everywhere anonymously. Lise Meitner co-discovered nuclear fission with Hahn, but was denied the Nobel Prize awarded to him alone. Refused to work on the atomic bomb. I will have nothing to do with the bomb. Rosalind Elise Franklin. Her photo 51 X-ray of DNA was used without credit by Watson and Crick to determine the double helix structure. Died never knowing her work was used. Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Miriam Mirzakhani, personal favorite. First and still only woman to win the Fields Medal for revolutionary work on the geometry of Riemann surfaces. Died of cancer at 40. The more I spent time on math, the more excited I got. Okay, probably going to be my favorite section if you know me. Composers and classical musicians. Claudio Giovanni Antonio Monteverdi invented opera with Orfeo. 1607 fused music, drama, and poetry into a new art form, also transformed the madrigal. The end of all good music is to affect the soul. Johann Sebastian Bach, the mathematical and spiritual foundation of Western music, well-tempered clavier, Goldberg Variations, Mass in B minor, St. Matthew Passion. The aim of all music should be the glory of God and the refreshment of the soul. George Friedrich Handel, our British representative here, House Saxony. Messiah is the most performed choral work in history. Audiences still stand for the Hallelujah chorus since King George II started the tradition. Franz Joseph Haydn, father of the symphony and string quartet, established the classical forms that Mozart and Beethoven would take to their limits. Since God has given me a cheerful heart, he will forgive me for serving him cheerfully. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Don Giovanni, the Magic Flute, Jupiter Symphony, the Requiem. Music of superhuman facility and beauty written in 35 years. Love, love, love. That is the soul of genius. Ludwig van Beethoven. Bridge classical and romantic. The Ninth Symphony, composed death with Ode to Joy, is among humanity's greatest collective statements. Music is the mediator between the spiritual and the sensual life. Franz Peter Schubert. Left more great music than composers who lived to 80. Vinteris, the Unfinished Symphony, the Late String Quartets, all in 31 years. My music is the product of my talent and my misery. Come on, Schubert. Come on, mate. Let's brighten up. Another kind of melancholic there. Frédéric Francois Chopin gave the piano its most intimate and poetic voice. Each nocturne, ballad, and etude is complete emotional work. Died of tuberculosis at 39. Bach is an astronomer. Beethoven challenges the universe. I only try to express the soul and the heart of man. It's very humble. It's very humble of you, Chopin. Franz Liszt, the first rock star of classical music, invented the solo piano recital, drove audiences to fainting fits, composed the first symphonic poems. Sorrowful and great is the artist's destiny. Wilhelm Richard Wagner, the Ring Cycle, 15 Hours of Norse Myth, invented the Gesamtkunstwerk, I don't know, total artwork, also a virulent anti-Semite whose music Hitler used as a soundtrack. The art of music is so deep that to understand it, one must study it for one's whole life. Giuseppe Fortunino, Francesco Verdi, Otello, Falstaff, Rigoletto, La Traviata, made opera speak with the directness of human drama, became a symbol of Italian unification. Viva Verdi! You may have the universe if I may have Italy. Johann Brahms poured romantic emotional depth into classical forms, the great conservative counterweight to Wagner. 4 symphonies of the highest quality. Without craftsmanship, inspiration is a mere reed shaken in the wind. My favorite composer, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, my favorite. Swan Lake, The Nutcracker, Sleeping Beauty, The Pathetic Symphony, Russian lyricism at its most direct and devastating. Inspiration is a guest that does not willingly visit the lazy. Gustav Mahler, 9 symphonies that try to contain everything, folk songs, military marches, cosmic collapse, and transcendence. The bridge to modernism. A symphony must be like the world. It must contain everything. It's a hard name. Claude Debussy. Dissolve the rules of Western harmony, Impressionism in sound, Clair de Lune, La Mer, the preludes, the bridge from Romanticism to 20th century music. Igor Fyodorovich Stravinsky. Sorry, I have to. The Rite of Spring caused a riot at its premiere and reset the entire trajectory of Western music. Three more reinventions followed. Lesser artists borrow, great artists steal. That's a good quote. It's a good one. So let's go, let's go. Uh, Victor Janos Bartok from Hungary. Folk melodies, huh? Fuse Hungarian, Bulgarian, and Romanian folk music with modernist structures into something fierce, strange, and entirely original. Competition is for horses, not artists. Dmitrievich Shostakovich survived two denunciations by the Soviet state. His quartets and symphonies encode defiance, grief, and black humor in music the censors couldn't decode. A creative artist works on his next composition because he was not satisfied with his previous one. So I was in Grand Central, and this really talented black musician in a bow tie was playing this piece of music. And for some reason, I went up to him and I asked him if it was, I can't remember who I said, but I didn't say the right person. I think I might have said Tchaikovsky or something. Like, is that Tchaikovsky's like Pastevo or something? Pastevo. And he looks back and he goes, no, it's Dmitri Dmitrievich Shostakovich. It's just like Dmitri Dmitrievich Shostakovich. And I was like, whoa. Like, you're super educated. No, it's Dmitri Dmitrievich Shostakovich, which is something song. Sorry, Leonard Bernstein. West Side Story, the Young People's Concerts, conducting as theater, the only person who made classical music feel as urgent as pop music. To achieve great things, two things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time. Some of these guys are comedians. I should have done comedians. John William Coltrane, A Love Supreme, 1965, elevated jazz to the level of spiritual practice, one of the most transcendent recordings in the history of music. My music is the spiritual expression of what I am, my faith, my knowledge, my being. Miles Dewey Davis III, reinvented jazz 4 times, birth of the cool kind of blue, Bitches Brew, fusion. Who is this person? Never repeated himself, never looked back, never explained. Who is this, but never explained himself? Son of a dentist. Don't play what's there, play what's not there. This guy sounds like a menace. He sounds like a menace. Okay. Hildegard von Bingen. These are the women. There's only 3. Hildegard von Bingen. The first named composer in history whose biography is known, wrote Plain Chant of Visionary Beauty, also a mystic healer, naturalist, and correspondent of popes. I am a feather on the breath of God. Fanny Mendelssohn Hensel, composer of 460 pieces, including exquisite piano cycles and songs, published under her brother's name, died at 41 of a stroke while rehearsing her own cantata. I know you will not misunderstand me when I say that I consider it a misfortune to be a woman. That's terrible. Clara Josephine Schumann, or Niewig, the greatest from Leipzig, the greatest concert pianist of the 19th century, championed Robert Schumann's and Brahms' music while composing masterworks ignored during her lifetime. I only believed I possessed creative talent, but I have given up this idea. A woman must not desire to compose. The composers for the women they would need some antidepressants or something, right? Oh my goodness. And where were Brahms and Schumann? Right? Okay, visual artists. Leonardo, the big hitter. Leonardo da Piero da Vinci. The Mona Lisa, The Last Supper, anatomical drawings of genius, designs for helicopters and tanks, the Renaissance ideal made on repeatable flesh. Learning never exhausts the mind. Of course, Da Vinci, you're going to think that, of course. Michelangelo de Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni, The Sistine Chapel ceiling, the David, the Pieta, technically the greatest sculptor who ever lived, tortured by faith and desire his entire life. The greatest danger is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. Raffaello Sanzio da Urbino, or Raphael. The School of Athens, the Sistine Madonna, the Supreme Renaissance Harmonious. His work became the template for academic painting for 400 years. There are three classes of people: those who see what is shown when shown, and those who do not see. Those who see when shown, and those who do not see. What's this guy trying? What is he talking? You see what I mean? Okay. Michelangelo Merisi da Saravaglia. Light from darkness. His brutal realism and extreme chiaroscuro changed the DNA of Western painting and influenced Rembrandt, Rubens, and Velázquez. Painting is nothing but an imitation of real human actions. Rembrandt, Harmensoen van Rijn. I might be murdering these names, I don't know. The human face painted with total honesty across a lifetime. His 100 self-portraits constitute the most extraordinary psychological autobiography in art. Choose only one master: nature. Johann Vermeer, Girl with a Pearl Earring, The Milkmaid, View of Delft. Light entering a domestic room becomes in his hands something approaching the infinite. I paint what I see, not what I know is there. These guys are crazy, right? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Vermeer? What are you talking about? I paint what I see, not what I know is there. Does he sound delusional? Does he sound like he's CEE? Huh? Huh? Francisco Jose de Goya y Lucientes. Saturn devouring his son, the 3rd of May. Court painter who became the first modern artist, mapped war, madness, and power in images that still disturb. Fantasy, abandoned by reason, produces impossible monsters. Joseph Malord William Turner made light itself the subject, dissolving the material world into pure atmosphere. The first proto-abstract painter and the greatest British artist. My business is to paint what I see, not what I know is there. Okay, so they've put, one of them's copying the other, right? One of them, between Vermeer and Turner, because there's no way they could say the same quote like that. I paint what I see, not, and then the other said, my business is to paint what I see. One of them's copied the other there. Or Cloud's brain is fried. Maybe my brain is fried, but that's the exact same quote. Turner just put business in front, thinking he's smart. I'm guessing it's Turner because Turner came 100 years later. Literally comes 100 years later after his death. Probably thinks he's funny taking that quote. Probably thinks he's funny. You think you're funny, huh, Turner? Think you're funny. Got joke. Claude Oscar Monet. Cloud. That's bias. Founded Impressionism, trained the eye to receive sensation before the mind could classify it. The Water Lily series is one of art's great final acts. I must have flowers always and always. Really? That's the best you can do? Vincent Wilhelm van Gogh made the color the carrier of emotional truth. With an urgency never replicated, 900 paintings in a decade, cut off his ear and shot himself at 37. I'm not going to joke about that. I dream of painting and then I paint my dream. Paul Cézanne, the bridge between Impressionism and Cubism, reconstructed form from sensation. Picasso said he is the father of us all. I want to make of Impressionism something solid and durable, like the art of the museums.
Pablo Ruiz Picasso co-invented Cubism. Guernica is the definitive painting about modern war, the most exhibited and reproduced artist in history, also monstrous to his lovers. Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once he grows up. Salvador Domingo Felipe Jacinto Dali. Uh, Surrealism and hyper-real technical precision. The persistence of memory is the 20th century's defining dream image. Master of self-promotion. Have no fear of perfection. You will never reach it. What an ass. That felt personal. What's your name? What's your name? Bloody Salvador Domingo Felipe Jacinto Dali. You better watch it. Have no fear of perfection. You better talk for yourself. Andrew Warhol, otherwise known as Andy Warhol. Pop art collapse, the boundary between high art and commerce. Campbell's soup cans. Marilyn Monroe founded Interview magazine. Everything is about 15 minutes. In the future, everyone will be world famous for 15 minutes. He was a prophet. How did he know that? It's so true. I know this guy, Jean-Michel Basquiat. Rose from graffiti artist to gallery stardom in 2 years. Painted race, power, and the black body in America with raw, explosive intelligence. I don't think about art when I'm working. I think about life. Artemisia Lomi Gentileschi, the first woman admitted to the Florentine Academy. Her Judas slaying Holofernes is among the most powerful paintings of the 17th century. I will show your illustrious lordship what a woman can do. Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo made chronic physical pain and emotional life into self-portraits of raw, surreal, unapologetic autobiography. Diego Rivera's wife and equal. I paint flowers so they will not die. I paint my own reality. Ooh. Kath Schmidt-Kollwitz from Königsberg. Lost son in World War One and grandson in World War Two. Devoted her art entirely to depicting the suffering of the poor and the consequences of war and prints of unflinching moral power. I want to be effective in this time when people are so helpless. Georgia Toto O'Keeffe. Her magnified flowers and New Mexico desert paintings made the intimate vast and the vast intimate, founding mother of American modernism. I found I could say things with color and shapes that I couldn't say any other way. Okay, we are now in actors and performers. Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin, The Little Tramp, invented cinematic comedy and poignant humanity simultaneously. The Great Dictator was the most courageous film of its era. Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot. Marlon Brando Jr., The Godfather, A Streetcar Named Desire, Apocalypse Now, reinvented screen acting. Every Hollywood actor since lives in his shadow. Acting is the expression of a neurotic impulse. Marrying is a little more conscious, a little more of a choice. Sir Lawrence Kerr Olivier, or Baron Olivier. Okay. The greatest classical actor of the 20th century is Hamlet, Othello, and Richard III set the standard for Shakespearean screen performance. Acting is a masochist form of exhibitionism. It is not quite the occupation of an adult, says the Baron Sir Lawrence Kerr Olivier from Dorking, Surrey, a clergyman's son. James Byron Dean. 3 films. East of Eden, personal favorite book. If you know, you know. I've been waiting for Steinbeck to show up on this list. He better be in the top 50 range. You know. Rebel Without a Cause, Giant. And dead at 24 in a car crash. Became the defining icon of teenage alienation and cool. Dream as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die today. Sir Anthony Hopkins. Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. Just watched that 2 weeks ago. I'm still recovering. One of the greatest screen performances ever, and then 50 more roles of complete inhabitation. My philosophy, it is what it is. Robert Anthony De Niro Jr. Taxi driver, Raging Bull, The Godfather, Part 2, the most intense American screen actor. Gained and lost 60 pounds for Raging Bull. The talent is in the choices. Alfredo James Pacino. The Godfather, Scarface. You want to say hello to my little... That's a song I'm not going to have. The Godfather, Scarface, Dog Day Afternoon, Serpicia, The Volcanic Intensity of New York, Street Theater brought to Hollywood at its peak. The camera sees through everything. Daniel Michael Blake Day-Lewis, the only actor to win 3 Best Actor Oscars. My Left Foot, There Will Be Blood. Lincoln retired from acting in 2017. I thought I could change everything. I thought I could make things better. You did, You did, Daniel Day. Heath Andrew Ledger. His Joker in The Dark Knight is one of the most devastating screen performances ever made. Won a posthumous Oscar, left a generation of actors stunned. I still feel like I'm faking it until I make it. Sidney Poitier, the first black actor to win the Academy Award for Best Actor in The Heat of the Night. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Broke Hollywood's racial barrier. So much of life is luck. One day you make a right turn and get hit by a car. Okay, Sidney. Woman, Meryl Streep, the greatest film actress alive, 21 Oscar nominations, 3 wins, Sophie's Choice, Kramer versus Kramer, The Devil Wears Prada, technique that seems like magic. The formula of happiness and success is just being actually yourself in the most vivid possible way you can. Audrey Kathleen Hepburn Rustin. Roman Holiday, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Sabrina defined an entire era of elegance, spent her final years as UNICEF ambassador to starving children. Nothing is impossible. The world itself says, I'm possible. The word itself says, I'm possible, but mate, it doesn't have the apostrophe in it. That's I am possible. There's no A. It's clearly why she's not in the science or philosophy. I'm just kidding. Norma Jean Mortensen, Marilyn Monroe. Some like it hot, the misfits gentlemen prefer blondes, the defining sex symbol of the 20th century, who was also a far more complicated person than the world allowed. I'm selfish, impatient, and insecure. I make mistakes, but if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Kate Blanchett, or Catherine Elise. Elizabeth I, Hella, Kate in Blue Jasmine, the most versatile actress of her generation, also a committed environmentalist and theater director. As an actor, you can always find the bright side of your role. Vivian Marie Lee, or Nee Hartley, from India, Darjeeling, British fan. Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind and Blanche Dubois in Streetcar, 2 of the greatest screen performances by a woman. Suffered from bipolar disorder. Life is short, and there will always be dirty dishes. That's just one poll there. No, it's just sad. This is mad, right? Musicians for pop, rock, hip hop, and soul. Elvis Aaron Presley, the king of rock and roll, fused black rhythm and blues with white country to ignite rock music. His 1956 TV appearances changed American culture overnight. Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away. James Paul McCartney, Co-wrote with Lenin the most successful songbook in history. Yesterday, Let It Be, Hey Jude, still performing. Sold out shows in his 80s. If slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would be a vegetarian. You know, I just thought about Lenin. What happened to Vladimir Lenin? He should have been in, you know, among Marx. Maybe he'll come. John Winston Ono Lenin. No, sorry. Robert Allen Zimmerman or Bob Dylan. The voice of a generation. Blowing in the wind. Is that two Lenin? No, sorry, that's McCartney. Lenin says is the Beatles' creative consciousness. Imagine is the most widely recognized peace anthem. Strawberry Fields, A Day in the Life, assassinated outside his New York apartment. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Zimmerman, the voice of a generation, blowing in the wind. The times, they are changing. They are a-changing. Like a Rolling Stone, Nobel Prize for Literature, 2016. The times, they are a-changing. You can't quote the name of the song, right? The times they are a-changing. I don't know how you say it. Okay. James Marshall Jimi Hendrix. The greatest rock guitarist who ever lived. Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock. Purple Haze, Voodoo Child, died of asphyxiation at 27. The story of life is quicker than the wink of an eye. David Robert Jones, otherwise known as David Bowie. Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, the Thin White Duke, reinvented himself more times than anyone in rock. Black Star released 2 days before his death. I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise it won't be boring. Freddie Mercury, or Farrokh Bulsara, Queen's lead singer, Bohemian Rhapsody, We Will Rock You, Somebody to Love. His Live Aid performance is called the greatest rock concert moment ever. The most important thing is to live a fabulous life. As long as it's fabulous, I don't care how long it is. Prince Rogers Nelson, Purple Rain, Sign, Oh the Times, Raspberry Beret, multi-instrumentalist genius who played every instrument on his album. Fiercely controlled his art. A strong spirit transcends rules. Kind of like Bach. Pretty impressive. I don't know. I'm learning a lot. Michael Joseph Jackson. Thriller is the best-selling album of all time. Billie Jean, Beat It, Smooth Criminal, the king of pop who moonwalked into a cultural force that crossed every boundary. In a world filled with hate, we must still dare to hope. Frank Albert Sinatra, My Way, Fly Me to the Moon, New York, New York. The Voice, defined American popular song for half a century and made the Rat Pack era. The Best Revenge is massive success. James Brown, the godfather of soul and the father of funk. Papa's got a brand new bag. I got you. Get up. More sampled artists in hip-hop history than anyone else. Hair is the first thing and teeth the second. Hair and teeth. Got those two things, he's got it all. I don't have neither. I don't have neither. Thanks for that, James Brown. You ruined my day, James Brown. Tupac Amaru Shakur. California Love, All Eyes on Me, Dear Mama. The poet of hip-hop's golden age, raised activist consciousness in rap. Most albums sold posthumously of any artist. I'm not saying I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will. Volunteer as tribute. Volunteer. Okay. Christopher George Latour was Notorious B.I.G. Juicy, Big Papa. Hypnotized, the greatest pure MC, turned Brooklyn streets into Homeric narrative. The East Coast answer to Tupac. Stay far from timid. Only make moves when your heart's in it. At least he's rhyming. Even in his quote. That's pretty cool. Sean Corey Carter, Jay-Z. 99 Problems. Empire State of Mind. Hova. The businessman of hip-hop. built Rockefeller Records and Tidal into a $2.5 billion empire. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. This is too fun. Kanye Omari West, otherwise known as Ye. The college dropout. My beautiful dark twisted fantasy. Yeezus. The most artistically ambitious producer in hip hop. Also one of the most self-destructive. My greatest pain in life is that I will never be able to see myself perform live. It's very narcissistic. That just came off narcissistic. Marshall Bruce Mathers the third. The Some Shady LP, the Marshall Mathers LP, Lose Yourself, the fastest rapper alive, made white working class trauma speak the language of hip hop. I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would you say I am? Some of these guys are Audrey Drake Graham. Drake. Started from the bottom. God's Plan, Hotline Bling, the dominant streaming artist of his generation. Made Toronto a hip hop capital. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. James Leroy Johnson, Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin's architect and riff king, Stairway to Heaven, Whole Lotta Love, Kashmir, the most influential rock guitarist after Hendrix. I always believed in the music we did, and that's why it was uncompromising. Woman. Billie Holiday, Eleanor Fagan. Strange Fruit, 1939, the most devastating protest song ever recorded. Her vocal phrasing, unique rubato, influenced every jazz singer who followed. If I'm going to sing like someone else, then I don't need to sing at all. Aretha Louise Franklin, the Queen of Soul, Respect Natural Woman, I Say a Little Prayer, performed for MLK's funeral and 4 presidential inaugurations. Be your own artist and always be confident in what you're doing. Whitney Elizabeth Houston, I Will Always Love You, greatest love of all, the most technically gifted female vocalist of the 20th century. 200 million albums sold. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. Madonna Louise Sisson. Material Girl, Like a Virgin, Like a Prayer, the Queen of Pop has sold 300 million records by constantly reinventing herself on her own terms. I'm tough, I'm ambitious, and I know exactly what I want. If that makes me a bitch, okay. No, that's not what makes you a bitch, Madonna. What makes you a bitch, Madonna, is paying at the Chelsea Hotel for your room with pieces of art. I kid you not, I was at the Chelsea Hotel, and I was speaking to the concierge in New York, and they said when Madonna would stay there, she would sometimes pay with art. What? I didn't know you could do that. Will you take this painting? Okay. Beyonce, Giselle Knowles, Carter, Crazy in Love, Lemonade, Renaissance, the most awarded artist in Grammy history, redefined the album as a visual and political statement. Power is not given to you, you have to take it. I thought I came up with that. I genuinely said something like that. Amy Jade Winehouse, Back to Black, and Rehab are among the most extraordinary debut and follow-up albums in British music. A voice and a tragedy in perfect parallel. I write songs because I'm fucked up. Well, she wasn't lying. Okay, athletes and sporting legends. Edson Arantes do Nascimento, or Pele. 3 World Cups, that's easier. Okay. 3 World Cups, 1958, 1962, 1970, 1,281 goals. That's a lot of goals. In 1,363 games, a beautiful game made flesh and given a name. Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, and love of what you're doing. Muhammad Ali, known for people as Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. Muhammad Ali, 3-time heavyweight champion, refused Vietnam draft on moral grounds, Thriller in Manila, Rumble in the Jungle, athlete and moral hero in one body. Athlete and moral hero in one body.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. You can't hit what you can't see. Michael Jeffrey Jordan, 6 NBA championships, 5 MVPs, the greatest basketball player who ever lived, and the Nike Air Jordan brand changed sports marketing forever. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. That's why I succeed. Roger Federer recently ate in a restaurant in Madrid, where he had eaten. Shout out to that restaurant. And I was like, whoa. Whoa. Roger Federer. 20 Grand Slam singles titles. The most elegant tennis player ever. His rivalry with Nadal and Djokovic is the greatest in sports history. Serena Jamaica Williams. I think this is Venus, right? That's Venus, not Serena, right? Well, reframe it. Whatever. Serena Williams. 23 Grand Slam titles, singles titles, the most by any player in the Open era. Played a US Open final while pregnant. Redefined what women's sports could be. I really think a champion is defined not by their wins, but by how they can recover when they fail, or when they fall. I think the pregnancy is make it a bit much, right? Lionel Andres Messi, 8 Ballon d'Or awards, 2022 World Cup winner, arguably the greatest footballer ever, combined genius with loyalty and humility. I never think about the play I just made, I think about the next play. Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro, 5 Ballon d'Ors, 5 Champions Leagues, 900 plus goals, the embodiment of relentless will and self-improvement, the greatest athlete to ever play the sport by work ethic. Talent without working hard is nothing. Said he sold sausages on the street as a child. Messi had growth hormone deficiency at 10 and Barcelona paid for it. Wow. Since 10 he was being taken care of and receiving money from Barcelona. Since 10 years old. How do you even know what? This has been crazy good. Usain St. Leo Bolt, world's fastest human. 100 meter, 200 meter, 4x 100 meter world records. Triple gold at 3 consecutive Olympics, 2008, 2012, 2016. Retired undefeated. Worrying gets you nowhere. If you turn up worrying about how you're going to perform, you've already lost. Eldrick Taunt was his name? I didn't know. Did you know Eldrick Taunt? That's Tiger Woods. 15 major championships, transformed golf from a country club sport into a global phenomenon, survived multiple personal and physical catastrophes to keep competing. Taught golf at 2 years old. No matter how good you get, you can always get better, and that's the exciting part. Michael Fred Phelps II, the most decorated Olympian in history, 23 gold medals, swam 8 golds at Beijing 2008. His wingspan is 80 inches, which is 3 inches more than his actual height. I think that normally it's meant to be, I don't know how, yeah, I think that everything is possible as long as you put your mind to it and you put the work and time into it. Michael Schumacher, 7 Formula One World Championships, the most in history until Hamilton. A crash in 2013 left him in a state of privacy his family has protected since. Once something is a passion, the motivation is there. Garry Kasparov, otherwise known as Gary Kimovich Weinstein, became world chess champion at 22. The greatest chess player who ever lived until his defeat by Deep Blue in 1987. Now a democracy activist. Chess is mental torture.
His father died when he was 7 years old. He's Jewish Armenian father. He's from Baku, Azerbaijan. I didn't know that. Anatoly Yevgenovich Karpov, world chess champion for 10 years, 1975 to 1985. His rivalry with Kasparov was one of the greatest sports duels. Was one of the great sporting duels. Cold War played on 64 squares. Chess is everything: art, science, and sport. They gotta add Carlsen and Hikaru and Fischer, right? Tyson Senna da Silva. 3 Formula One world championships, the most gifted wet weather driver in history. And that's pretty cool. The most gifted wet weather driver in history. Died at the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix at 34. If you no longer go for a gap that exists, you are no longer a racing driver. That's so hard. Oh, here we go. LeBron Raymond James Sr. 4 NBA championships across 3 teams. Only player to reach 40,000 career points. Founded I Promise School for at-risk kids in Akron. I like criticism. It makes you strong. Apparently the kids at the I Promise School are failing the math test by like national averages, and apparently they're not doing well. So that's just some criticism for your school, Mr. James. Hopefully it'll make them strong. I wish they put Kobe in here. I'm a Kobe guy. Okay, Billie Jean King. Nee Moffitt. Won 39 Grand Slams. Beat Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes, watched by 90 million. Fought for equal prize money and founded the Women's Tennis Association. Be bold if you're going to make an error. Make a doozy. It's a good one. Simone Ariane Biles. I know her, the greatest gymnast of all time. 37 world and Olympic medals. Withdrew from Tokyo Olympics to protect your mental health. Returned to win at Paris 2024. Mental health, and you're an Olympian. But thinking, come on, you're literally. I'm sorry, you're literally the greatest gymnast of all time, and you complaining about mental health. You're the greatest gymnast of all time. I'm not the next Usain Bolt or Michael Phelps. I'm the first Simone Biles. But you don't run and you're not swimmer. We know that, Simone. We know that, Simone. That's obvious. No one's calling you Michael Phelps or Usain Bolt. Okay, this is going to be probably my favorite section. Political, military, and revolutionary figures. Hannibal Barca, the 37 war elephants across the Alps in winter, as you do. Crushed Rome at Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae. 3 of the most studied military victories in history. We will either find a way or make one. Sounds intense. That guy's intense, right? Alexander III of Macedon the Great conquered Persia, Egypt, and reached India by age 30, founded Alexandria, spread Greek culture across 3 continents, died of fever at 32. There is nothing impossible to him who will try. Can you imagine if he lived till 64? He's just getting started. Gaius Julius Caesar conquered Gaul, wrote about it, crossed the Rubicon, became dictator, ended the Republic, gave rulers a title for 2 millennia, assassinated on the Ides of March. I came, I saw, I conquered. And then you were seen. And then they came, and then they saw, and then they conquered. But Veni Vidi Vici, right? Okay. Gaius Octavius. I'm interested what the significance of that word Gaius. Gaius Octavius Thurinus, or Augustus Caesar. Is a great nephew and adopted son of Julius Caesar. First Roman emperor, won the civil wars, established the Principate, presided over the Pax Romana, transformed Rome without calling himself a king. Make haste slowly. Can you do that? Seems like a bit of a juxtaposition, right, Octavius? Right? Lethargically. Okay. Charlemagne, or Karl the Grosse, from Liege, which is modern Belgium, united Western Europe under one Christian crown, promoted literacy, the Carolingian Renaissance. All subsequent European monarchs trace legitimacy to him. Right action is better than knowledge, but to do right, we must know what is right. Genghis Khan, or Temüjin, built the largest contiguous land empire in history. 24 million square kilometers. Killed 40 million people. 10% of the world population. Promoted meritocracy and religious tolerance. I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me. Cristoforo Columbus. His 1492 voyage began sustained European contact with the Americas, the most consequential journey in history, with consequences still violently unfolding. Following the light of the sun, we left the old world. Martin Luther nailed 95 theses in 1517 and split Western Christianity permanently. Also translated the Bible into German, creating standard German language. Here I stand, I can do no other, God help me. Alexander Hamilton, you're going to need his help after you put those 95. You're going to need someone's help after you put 95 pieces and split the church. Someone's going to be mad. Martin. Alexander Hamilton, first U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, created the American financial system, the Federal Bank, and the Coast Guard. Co-wrote the Federalist Papers, shot dead by Aaron Burr. Those who stand for nothing fall for anything. Horatio Gates, commanding general at Saratoga in 1777, the turning point that brought France into the Revolutionary War and secured American independence. The fate of unborn millions will depend on the courage of this army. George Washington led the Continental Army against the greatest military power on earth, won and then refused to be made king, one of history's most consequential refusals. It is better to offer no excuse than a bad one. Thomas Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal while owning enslaved people. I'm going to read that again. Thomas Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal while owning enslaved people. But not people. They're 3/4, they're 5/3, they're 7/9, they're 10/4. Okay. Third U.S. president owned 600 enslaved people over his life. The contradiction at the heart of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. John Adams, the most honest and most underrated. I also heard that Jefferson could speak 9 languages. I've been to Monticello. The most honest and most underrated founder, John Adams, write about things that were unpopular, defended the British soldiers after the Boston Massacre because justice demanded it. Liberty once lost is lost forever. James Madison, father of the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights. That's heavy. Father of the U.S. Constitution and Bill. The most careful constitutional architect. Co-wrote Federalist Papers with Hamilton and Jay. I thought Hamilton wrote like 50 or something of them, and Madison wrote 30 something, and Jay wrote like 2 or something. So, the accumulation of all powers is the very definition of tyranny. James Madison. John Jay negotiated the Treaty of Paris, ending the revolution. First Chief Justice, co-wrote Federalist Papers, foundational figure of American diplomacy and law. No power on earth has a right to take our property without our consent. They've definitely got to get John Marshall, right? Or was the Supreme Court justice that was just a crazy mind? And Taft, too, who was a Supreme Court justice and president. Like, what? People have no chill. Maximilien de Robespierre, the Incorruptible, led by the Committee of Public Safety during the Terror, guillotined 1,300 people in Paris in 6 weeks, and then was guillotined himself. This is a quote, the secret of tyranny is in keeping people ignorant or cutting their head off. Keep them ignorant or just cut their head off, Rod. You telling me. Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Military genius who conquered most of Europe, exported the revolution's legal principles, Code Napoleon, and then overreached into Russia catastrophically, sorry. Impossible is a word found only in the dictionary of fools. It was also in the regular dictionary. Napoleon, you could have said something like, impossible is not a word in my lexicon, but you gotta be like, why have to drag everyone else that make other people? We know you're Napoleon. You're such an obvious Napoleon complex, right? You didn't have to say that, right? You said something more, expected something, because it's just a dictionary, right? I mean, what do you, Otto Eduard Leopold von Bismarck unified Germany through 3 wars, blood and iron, invented the welfare state, kept Europe's great powers in balance for 20 years through sheer diplomatic skill. Politics is the art of the possible. Abraham Lincoln preserved the Union through civil war, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, delivered the Gettysburg Address, assassinated 5 days after Lee's surrender. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi not made non-violent civil disobedience a world historical force, led India to independence, inspired MLK, Mandela, and the global human rights movement. First they ignore me, sorry. They laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Vladimir Ilyich there he is, Ulyanov. Lenin, there he is. Led the Bolshevik Revolution, created the Soviet state, introduced a new economic policy. His embalmed body still lies in the Red Square. A lie told often enough becomes the truth. Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill, Prime Minister who refused to negotiate with Hitler when almost every calculation said to, the most important decision made by a single person in the 20th century. He's expelled from school because he failed his officer exams twice. Come on, Winston. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender. General George Smith Patton Jr., the most aggressive U.S. battlefield commander of World War II, raced across France and Germany faster than any army in history, died in a car accident after the war. Can you imagine dying in a car accident after you fought in World War I and World War II and fought in the Revolutionary War and the Civil War? You're fighting in all these wars and you die in a car accident. Are you mad? It's probably so fateful, right? Like, this is probably the last thing you expected after all that. May God, he put high. Okay, I see why he died in a car crash and not what he said. General George Smith Patton Jr. said, may God have mercy on my enemies because I won't. I'm not getting in his. Okay, Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson.
Confederate general. He's orphaned at 7. Explains a lot, right? Went to West Point. Confederate general of extraordinary tactical genius. His Valley campaign of 1862 is a masterclass in military deception, shot by his own men at Chancellorsville. Just makes it, he's a West Point graduate, yet they have him at the Virginia Military Institute as like a. That makes me think VMI is just taking the piss, because why would VMI want to like showcase the rival? Why not just get stupid VMI? Why would you have Stonewall Jack if he's from? It's not like it's like Yale choosing to have Bill Gates as someone they put as a statue. Like, get your Meryl Streep, right? Like, why would just? I don't understand that. Sorry, very personal to me. I went to military school. Always mystify, mislead, and surprise the enemy if possible. That's Stonewall. General Robert Edward Lee, the greatest American military tactician of the 19th century, fought brilliantly for the Confederate cause, which was the defense of slavery. Duty is the most sublime word in our language. Duty. Ho Chi Minh, or Nguyen Tat Tan, led Vietnamese resistance against Japan, France, and the United States, the only leader to defeat 2 colonial superpowers and a superpower simultaneously. Nothing is more precious than independence and liberty. Ho Chi Minh. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, president of Russia since 2000. It's longer than she, isn't it? Rebuilt Russian power, invaded Georgia, Crimea, and Ukraine, the defying authoritarian of the 21st century. The Soviet Union's collapse was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century. That's a loyalist right there. Get you someone who talks about you the way Putin talks about the Soviet Union and its collapse. I've got jokes tonight. Nelson Ro... Oh, one of my favorite. Nelson Rolihala... Nelson Rolihala... That's a hard one. Nelson Mandela. 27 years on Robben Island, personally been. Emerged from without bitterness, dismantled apartheid, became president, the most complete moral figure of the 20th century. It always seems impossible until it's done. Ernesto Che Guevara de la Serna fought with Castro in Cuba, attempted revolution in Congo and Bolivia, captured and executed. His image by Alberto Corda became the most reproduced photo ever. Until the victory, always. Martin Luther King Jr. led the American Civil Rights Movement through nonviolent protests. I have a dream, won Nobel Peace Prize at 35, assassinated at the Lorraine Motel. A motel. Say that so. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Malcolm X, or El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. Father murdered, mother institutionalized, jailed at 20, from Omaha, Nebraska. Isn't that where Warren Buffett's from? Minister of Omaha is producing some pretty, consequential, incredible people in history. Minister of Nation of Islam, the harder, more uncomfortable voice of Black American rage. After Mecca pilgrimage evolved toward universal brotherhood, assassinated by any means necessary. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 4-term president. The New Deal reshaped the American state, led the Grand Alliance in World War II. The only president to be elected 4 times. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Woman, Cleopatra VII Philopator. The last pharaoh of Egypt, polyglot, naval commander, political genius. Her suicide ended 3 centuries of Ptolemaic rule and made Egypt a Roman province. I will not be triumphed over, is her quote. It says the person who committed suicide. Mate, you triumphed over yourself, right? Will not be triumphed over when I'm going to end my own life.
Jean d'Arc, or Joan of Arc, or is it Jean d'Arc? Jean d'Arc, okay, claimed divine visions, led France's armies at Orleans, age 17. She's an illiterate farmer's daughter from Lorraine, turned the 100 Years' War, captured, tried for heresy, burned alive at 19. Oh, I'm not afraid, I was born to do this. And then you get burned alive for doing what you're born to do because you're a woman fighting in a man's war. Craziness. Yekaterina II Alexeyevna, Catherine the Great, seized the Russian throne in a coup, expanded the empire by 520,000 square kilometers, promoted the Enlightenment, corresponded with Voltaire, ruled for 34 years. I praise loudly, I blame softly. Harriet Tubman, or Araminta Ross, escaped slavery and returned 13 times to lead adolescents, or over around 70 people, to freedom by the Underground Railroad, Union spy during Civil War. I never lost a passenger. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger. I was expecting a bit more from Tubman. 70. I mean, you got people talking about selling 200 million records. I don't want to go after anyone, but it shows there is a lot of, like, the higher the pedigree for some of these people, they're just in different universes, right? Susan Brownell Anthony, devoted 50 years to women's suffrage, arrested for voting in 1872. The 19th Amendment, women's vote, passed 14 years after her death, called the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. I distrust those people who know so well what God wants them to do to their fellows. Emmeline Golden Pankhurst, I know this name, led the militant British suffragette movement. Hunger strikes, arson, force feeding in prison. Lived to see partial women's suffrage in 1918. Founded WSPU in her sitting room. From Manchester, we are here not because we are lawbreakers, we are here in our efforts to become lawmakers. Via breaking the law, right? Roosevelt, the most consequential first lady in history. The orphan at 9, discovered FDR's affair in 1918, drove the Universal Declaration of Human Rights through the UN. FDR called her his conscience, and then cheated on her. What? No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Indira Priyadarshini Gandhi, first female Prime Minister of India, led the 1971 Indo-Pakistani War, declared emergency 1975 to 1977, launched Operation Blue Star, and assassinated by her own bodyguards. Trust no one. Her quote is, "You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist." Rosa Luxemburg, the most brilliant theorist on the European socialist left, murdered and thrown into the Landwehr Canal after the failed 1919 German Revolution. Freedom is always the freedom of dissenters. Boudica, Queen of the Iceni, Norfolk, Suffolk region, from the Norfolk, Suffolk region, Celtic Britain, tribal queen. This is like 30 to 61 AD. Led the largest uprising against Roman occupation in British history. Sacked Camaldonium, Londinium, and Verulamium. Killed approximately 70,000 Romans. Win the battle or perish. That is what I, a woman, intend to do. Alexei Anatolievich Navalny, Russia's most prominent opposition leader, survived Novichok poisoning in 2020, returned to Russia knowing the consequences. That's pretty, returning knowing them. Died in an Arctic penal colony at 47. The only strategy that can work is a non-participation in the falsification. Engineer's son, anti-corruption lawyer from Butin, which is near Moscow. Brutal dictators and architects of... Where's Jamal Khashoggi? I asked for that one too. Interesting. Brutal dictators and architects of atrocity. Okay, we're going into the interesting land here. Caligula, which is Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. It's a hell of a name. My goodness. Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. Nice to meet you. How do you do? From 12 to 41 AD, Roman emperor for 4 years. He's a great nephew of Tiberius. Began the celebration, descended into sadism and delusion, made his horse a consul, and assassinated his own Praetorian guard. Let them hate me so long as they fear me. Oh, hell no. Hell no. I'm like, no. Nero, Claudius, Caesar, Augustus, Germanicus. It seems like the longer the name, the more tyrannical they are, right? None of these guys have normal names, and they're just murdered his own mother, Agrippina, killed his pregnant wife to death, kicked his pregnant wife to death, persecuted Christians. His reign ended in revolt and suicide in a villa outside Rome. What an artist dies in me. You can't make this stuff up. Attila, flagellum Dei, scourge of God. From Pannonia, which is modern Hungary, became sole king of the Huns at 17. Ravaged the Eastern Roman Empire, invaded Gaul and Italy, built a pyramid of skulls. A pyramid of skulls at Nisus. His death of a nosebleed on his wedding night ended the Hunnic threat. Where my horse has trodden, no grass grows. Timur, or is his name Tamerlane, built towers of 70,000 skulls outside Isfahan, killed an estimated 17 million people, roughly 5% of the world's population. Yeah, Genghis Khan's like, I did double your number. Like you gotta work on your art form. And the other guy's probably like, I did a pyramid, right? And you got a Timur saying, or Atalia saying, I did a pyramid of skulls, and you just did a tower. Well, no, I did a tower of 70,000 skulls. Oh my God. Killed in I am the scourge of God appointed to chastise you. There's a lot of like people thinking they're God. Ivan the Fourth, Vasilievich, Ivan the Terrible, brilliantly reformed Russia, then descended into paranoid mass murder, created the Oprachina secret police, killed his own son in a rage he spent the rest of his life mourning. I may be diminutive in stature, yet my deeds shall tower. Adolf Hitler. Enough said. Do I even need to read this? Führer of Nazi Germany, failed artist, custom official's son, born in Austria, orchestrated the Holocaust, 6 million Jews, millions more, invaded Europe, his war killed 70 to 85 million people, shot himself in a Berlin bunker. This is a quote, if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. Well, he did exactly that. Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin, or Jugashvili, collectivization, the Gulag, the Great Terror, the Holodomor, between 6 and 20 million of his own citizens killed. His own citizens. Crazy. Also won World War II at colossal human cost. Death is the solution to all problems. No man, no problem. Benito Amilcar Andrea Mussolini founded fascism, allied with Hitler, invaded Ethiopia and Greece, deposed, rescued by Nazis, shot by partisans, hung upside down at a Milan petrol station. The fitting end. It is better to live one day as a lion than 100 years as a sheep. I don't know. Mussolini. Francisco Franco Bahamonde won the Spanish Civil War with Nazi and fascist support, ruled for 36 years, 400,000 killed during the Civil War and subsequent repression. I am responsible only to God and history. These guys have huge ego. and dogma. And Macedon led communist revolution, unified China, the great leap forward in cultural revolution, caused 40 to 80 million deaths. That's a large margin of error. That's how you know you're just doing too much. You're just killing people every second. 40 to 80 million, the largest mass killing in history. Political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. He clearly thinks the gun is mightier than the sword and the pen. Kim Il-sung, Kim Song-ju, Pyongyang, Presbyterian minister son, eternal president of North Korea, launched the Korean War, built the world's most totalitarian state, established the only Marxist dynastic succession in history. Say that again. Established the only Marxist dynastic succession in history. The country is one family. Pol Pot, Saloth Sar, Khmer Rouge leader, evacuated all cities, abolished money. He's educated in Paris. He's a rice farmer's family from Cambodia. Murdered around 2 million people, a quarter of Cambodia's population in 4 years. To keep you is no benefit, to destroy you is no loss. Idi Amin Dada Umi, from The Last King of Scotland. It's a great movie, but it's fictitious. Military dictator who killed 100,000 to 500,000 Ugandans, expelled all Asians, awarded himself conqueror of the British Empire, spent final years in Saudi luxury. I am the hero of Africa. Augusto José Ramon Pinochet Ugarte overthrew Salvador Allende. His regime tortured 40,000 people and disappeared 3,000, died under house arrest, avoiding trial, never convicted. Not a leaf moves in Chile without my knowing. Saddam Hussein Abd al-Majid al-Tikriti, president of Iraq 1979 to 2003, gassed Kurdish civilians at Halabja, invaded Kuwait, survived one Gulf War, hanged after the second on December 30th, 2006. He who wants the ends must accept the means. Muammar Mohammed Abu Minyar al-Gaddafi, dictator for 42 years, sponsored terrorism globally, Lockerbie IRA, bombed his own people during Arab Spring uprising, captured and lynched by rebels. I am an international leader, the dean of Arab rulers, the king of kings of Africa. No woman in this section. Kings, queens, pharaohs, and emperors. Ramesses II, or Ramesses the Great, Egypt's most celebrated pharaoh, built Abu Simbel, fought the Hittites at Kadesh, fathered over 100 children. 100. Over the probable pharaoh of the Exodus, I am the greatest ruler of all time. It's aura. That's a lot of aura. Cyrus II of Persia, Cyrus the Great. The world's first great conqueror who treated conquered peoples with tolerance, freed the Jews from Babylonian captivity. The Cyrus cylinder is the first declaration of human rights. May Aru Mazda protect this land from a hostile army, famine, and the lie. I don't know how people know he said that. It is 600 to 530 before Christ BC. Like, how do you know he says that? Augustus Caesar transformed the republic into empire while preserving republican forms, ushered in 200 years of Pax Romana. His era produced Virgil, Ovid, and Livy. Make haste slowly. It's the second time I've seen that. So clearly some of these quotes may not be completely true. Bear with caution. AI is probably a bubble and not as smart as we like to believe. But it's done pretty well. I think most of them are correct. I'd say like 90%. But some of them are just sort of like, it's just bullshit. Charlemagne, united Western Europe, promoted literacy in the Dark Ages. His coronation on Christmas Day, 800 AD, is called the birth of Europe. Right action is better than knowledge. Genghis Khan, Temüjin, once again, from enslaved orphan to ruler of the largest empire in history, his legal code, the Yasa, guaranteed religious freedom, facilitated trade from China to Europe. I am the punishment of God. Henry VIII of England founded the Church of England to annul his marriage, became heir at 10, married 6 wives, 2 executed, 2 divorced, 1 died, 1 survived. Just don't go near him, woman. You're gonna... It's just not good, right? Dissolved the monasteries, transformed England. The king is a man who can. Louis the 15th of France, Le Roi Soleil, the Sun King, the last king, right? L'état c'est moi. The state is me. It's very built Versailles, been beautiful. Made French culture the template for all of Europe. Longest reign of any major monarch. L'état c'est moi. I am the state. Frederick II of Prussia, or Frederick the Great. Frederick the Great. Military genius. The father imprisoned him for trying to flee Berlin. Flute player and poet. I mean, I'm a flute player and poet too. It's not a flute. Okay. A military genius who transformed Prussia into a great power, championed religious tolerance and freedom of press, the first servant of the state. The greatest and noblest pleasure which men can have in this world is to discover new truths. Very Socrates-like. Peter the First of Russia, or Peter the Great, modernized Russia through brutal force. 6'7" tall, built St. Petersburg from swamp, created the Russian Navy, forced nobles to shave their beards, opened Russia to the west. I have conquered an empire, but I have not been able to conquer myself. Woman has slipped. I can't say. From Egypt, the most successful female pharaoh. Became pharaoh after her husband's death. Ruled Egypt for 21 years. Organized a famous trading expedition to Punt. Her successor tried to erase all record of her. I am the divine daughter of the beautiful face. Nefertiti, or Nefertiti, there's a lot of Nefer there. Possibly co-ruled Egypt as pharaoh, supported Akhenaten's monotheistic revolution. Her bust is one of the most recognized works of ancient art. My wish is that my name may endure. Cleopatra VII Philopator, the most famous woman in ancient history, right? Romance Caesar and Mark Antony, last of the Ptolemaic line, committed suicide rather than be paraded in Roman triumph. I will not be triumphed over. Elizabeth I of England, the Virgin Queen, 45-year reign, the Elizabethan Gold Age, daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, who was executed. Shakespeare, Drake, Raleigh, the defeat of a Spanish armada, never married, the heart of a king. I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king. Yekaterina II, or Catherine the Great, the greatest female ruler since Cleopatra, expanded Russia's empire, was an Enlightenment philosopher on the throne. Patron of arts and architecture, I praise loudly, I blame softly. Queen Victoria, Alexandrina Victoria, 63-year reign. At her death, the British Empire covered a quarter of the Earth's surface. Defined an error, transformed the monarchy into a constitutional institution. We are not interested in the possibilities of defeat, they do not exist. Religious and spiritual figures. Oh my goodness, we're almost there. We're almost there. Religious and spiritual figures. Okay. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. Okay, the Buddha. Attained enlightenment under a Bodhi tree, taught the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. His tradition has around 500 million followers. 563 to 483 BC. Peace comes from within, do not seek it without. Jesus of Nazareth. 4th century BC to 30 AD. Nazareth, Galilee, a carpenter's son. Ministry lasted 3 years. His teachings on love, forgiveness, and the kingdom of God, and his death and reported resurrection founded a religion of 2.4 billion people. Love your neighbor as yourself. Saul of Tarsus, St. Paul the Apostle. His 13 letters and missionary journeys across the Roman Empire built the institutional church that turned a Jewish sect into a world religion. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Aurelius Augustinus Hipponensis, or St. Augustine. Original sin, divine grace, the city of God, a concubine's son, the architect of Western Christianity. His Confessions invented autobiography. Our heart is restless until it rests in thee. Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the Prophet of Islam, the Quran revealed through him the foundation of a civilization of 1.9 billion believers across 57 countries. The ink of scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr. The ink of the scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr. Okay. Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardone, Saint Francis of Assisi, radical. He's a wealthy cloth merchant's son, renowned soul inheritance, radical poverty, love of animals and nature, joyful humility, the saint who embarrassed the institutional church with his literal obedience to Christ. Start by doing what is necessary, then do what is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, greatest mystical poet of the Islamic world. The Masnavi is read across the Muslim world the way Shakespeare is read in the West. Most translated poet in America. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. Woman, Hildegard von Bingen, mystic, healer, naturalist, dramatist, and composer, the first person in history to describe male and female orgasm. Corresponded with poets and emperors. I am a feather on the breath of God. I am a feather on the breath of God. Teresa de Cepeda y Ahumada, or Teresa of Avila, reformed the Carmelite order. Her interior castle maps the stages of contemplative prayer. First woman declared doctor of the Catholic Church. The feeling remains that God is on the journey too. Julian of Norwich, from Norwich, Norfolk. Identity unknown outside her work. The first woman to write a book in English. Revelations of Divine Love, received during near-death illness, contains the most hopeful theology in Christianity. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. She said the same thing 3 times. Okay, journalists. Okay, they did come up then. We're seeing Navalny in it. Alexei Anatolievich Navalny, Russia's most prominent opposition leader, survived the poisoning, returned to Russia knowing it meant imprisonment, died in Arctic penal colony IK6. The future will belong to those who choose love over fear. Jamal Ahmad Khashoggi, Saudi journalist and dissident who was murdered and dismembered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on the orders of Crown Prince MBS, or Mohammed bin Salman. I was of the belief that my pen and keyboard were my weapons. Apparently that was just wishful thinking. Julian Paul Assange published classified military footage showing U.S. helicopter killing civilians in Iraq, exposed diplomatic cables, spent 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy, 5 years in Belmarsh. Hack activist founded WikiLeaks in 2006 from Queensland. The goal is to use transparency to produce accountability. Edward Joseph Snowden, NASA contractor who leaked classified documents, now living in Russia, revealing global surveillance programs. CIA analysts changed the entire conversation about privacy in the digital age. The individuals who are saying I have nothing to hide are unprepared for the world they are creating. Anna Stepanovna Politkovskaya, Russian journalist who documented Chechen war atrocities and Putin's authoritarian state, shot in the lift of her Moscow apartment on Putin's birthday. And on her birthday, Putin. On Putin's birthday. Dang. In our country, honest people end up in jail and the crooks run the country. Christopher Eric Hitchens. The most combative public intellectual of his generation. Against Kissinger, against Mother Teresa, against God, the missionary position, God is not great. That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Anna Wangchid Politkovskaya, the only journalist who consistently reported the human cost of Putin's
Chechen wars. Her murder was ordered at the highest levels. Russia is a country of legal nihilism. Dang. Russia seems to have a lot of, like, journalists. I wonder what. Nathan, okay, business, finance, and architects of capital. Nathan Meyer Rothschild built the most successful banking house in 19th century Europe, financed the Napoleonic Wars and Wellington's army, established Rothschild & Co. in London. Gave me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. How can you? You know he's rich, they're wealthy when they're saying that type of, when they're saying crap like that. Jeez. John Davison Rockefeller Sr. Standard Oil controlled 90% of U.S. oil refining, the first billionaire in history. But Mansa Musa, right? His 350 billion fortune is the largest in American history adjusted for inflation. The secret of success is to do the common thing uncommonly well. John Pierpont Morgan, Hartford, Connecticut. Banker's son, studied in Germany. Reorganized American railroads, created U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar company, personally stopped the financial panic of 1907, the most powerful private financier in U.S. history. Go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll be able to see further. Andrew Carnegie built Carnegie Steel into the largest steel company in the world, sold to Morgan for $480 million. Gave 90% of his fortune to libraries, universities, and peace. The man who dies thus rich dies disgraced. Henry Ford invented the assembly line and mass production, made the car affordable for ordinary people, transformed American society and the nature of industrial work. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. John Maynard Keynes, the first Baron, I didn't know he was rich. The most influential economist of the 20th century, government spending to stimulate demand during recession. The New Deal and post-war economic management depend on him. In the long run, we are all dead, okay? If they have John Maynard Keynes, they should have Friedman. Should add that to the list for sure. Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, 1776, is the foundational text of capitalism. The invisible hand of the market, division of labor, free trade shaped the global economy. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. What, Adams? What? It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. Okay. The Customs Commissioners, a lifelong bachelor from Scotland. Woman, we have Hetty Howland Robinson Green from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Whaling family, inherited and grew it enormously. The Witch of Wall Street. The Witch of Wall Street. The richest woman in America in her time, amassing $2.3 billion in today's dollars through ruthless investing and a refusal to spend a penny. There is no great secret in fortune making. All you can do is buy cheap and sell, dear. Okay. Modern innovators, tech titans, and disruptors. Stephen Paul Jobs co-founded Apple, founded Next, acquired Pixar, the iMac, iPod, iPhone, iPad, the most consequential product designer in history, died of pancreatic cancer at 56. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Stephen Gary Wozniak, sole designer of the Apple I and Apple II computers, the engineering genius whose work Jobs turned into a revolution. Gave much of his fortune to schools. Electrical engineer, father taught him electronics as a child. Most of our advances come from lonely kids who don't fit in. William Henry Gates III, otherwise known as Bill Gates, co-founded Microsoft and made software a trillion-dollar industry, the world's richest man for decades. Now runs the most ambitious global health philanthropy in history. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. Says you. Well, I guess that's why I said it. Warren Edward Buffett from Omaha, Nebraska, right? Bought first stock at 11. Chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, the most successful investor in history, pledged 99% of his fortune to charity.
Lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,000, 500. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Lawrence Joseph Ellison, Manhattan, Jewish family, adopted by aunt after mother abandoned him. Co-founded Oracle Corporation, the world's most dominant database company. Oracle is the plumbing of global finance and healthcare. When you innovate, you've got to be prepared for everyone telling you you're nuts. Jeffrey Preston Bezos, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Mother was 17 when he was born. Adopted by Cuban refugee stepfather. Founded Amazon in a garage in 1994. Built the world's largest retailer plus AWS, which runs on the internet. So I know that. Amazon Web Security or something. Now building rockets with Blue Origin. And $100 billion company for AI or something, taking everyone's job. Your margin is my opportunity. It's a good one. Your margin is my opportunity. Say that when I need to sound smart. Lawrence Edward Page, East Lansing, Michigan. Computer science professor's son. Co-founded Google with Brin. Sergey Brin, I'm guessing it's Larry Page. Yeah, Larry Page. PageRank, now the index of all human knowledge, co-CEO of Alphabet, the architect of the information age, always deliver more than expected. Sergey Mikhailovich Brin, co-founded Google, mathematician parents, emigrated fleeing anti-Semitism, Moscow, raised in Maryland. Built the infrastructure that organizes the world's information. Pioneered moonshot thinking through Google X and self-driving cars. Obviously, everyone wants to be successful, but I want to be looked back on as being very innovative. Mark Elliott Zuckerberg. White Plains, New York. Dentist father, psychiatrist mother, Harvard dropout. Founded Facebook from his dorm room at 19. Connected 3 billion people. Raised fundamental questions about privacy, democracy, mental health, and attention. Move fast and break things. Elon Reeve Musk, Pretoria, South Africa, engineer father, model mother, moved to Canada at 17, founded SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, the Bourne Company, XAI, the most ambitious builder in a century, pursuing Mars, also the most divisive figure in Silicon Valley. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Ma Yun, or Jack Ma, founded Alibaba, China's Amazon, eBay, and PayPal combined. Built from nothing by a man who could barely get hired, worth $30 billion at his peak. Hangzhou, China, appliance repairman's son, failed Harvard 10 times. Today is cruel, tomorrow is crueler, and the day after tomorrow is beautiful. I thought I was going to say, today is cruel, tomorrow is crueler, and the day after tomorrow is even crueler. Peter Andreas Steele, or the Antichrist, as I knew him by South Park. Frankfurt, German-American chess champion, Stanford Law, the chess champion, PayPal co-founder, I had no idea. He's German. Co-founded PayPal, first outside investor in Facebook, founded Palantir, 0 to 1 is the most contrarian startup philosophy text of its era. Competition is for losers. Jensen Jen Hassan Huang, emigrated to the U.S. at 9, worked as a busboy at Denny's, co-founder and CEO of NVIDIA, built the GPU into the engine of artificial intelligence at the center of the most consequential technological revolution since the internet. I hope it is very painful. If it is not painful, you didn't learn anything. It's a masochist, right? Reed Garrett Hoffman, co-founded LinkedIn, coined blitzscaling, Stanford, Oxford, educated Palo Alto, partner at Greylock, early investor in Facebook, Airbnb, and Convoy, the connector of Silicon Valley's most consequential relationships. If you are not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you have launched too late. Samuel Harris Altman, CEO of OpenAI, Jewish family, oversaw the release of GPT-4 and ChatGPT, fastest product to 100 million users in history, at the center of the most consequential AI transition yet. The most important thing is to be working on something you find important. Andrej Karpathy, the most influential AI educator alive. His Stanford CS231N course and YouTube lectures taught a generation of engineers to build AI, now building Eureka Labs. Neural networks are not magic. They are just a mathematical machine that happens to be very good at finding patterns. Ilya Sutskever, from Russia, immigrated to Israel and Canada, co-founder of OpenAI with Altman and Musk, former chief scientist, now founder of Safe Superintelligence Inc., one of the deepest thinkers on AI risk and capability. The neural network is the algorithm that scales. Dario Amodei, responsible for this list. Co-founder and CEO of Anthropic, former vice president of research at OpenAI, building AI safety-focused models. The most serious safety-first voice in frontier AI. PhD from Princeton in computational neuroscience. Oh, they should have had the guys who, like, the guy who did the math algorithm and made billions of dollars from trading, and then the other guy that has, like, the movie about him called The Beautiful Life, where he's, like, super smart but paranoid that he's being tracked by the CIA. Just some thoughts. I had some other people I could... The question is not whether AI will be transformative. The question is whether we'll navigate it well. Geoffrey Everest Hinton, the godfather of deep learning, Turing Award 2018, descended from George Bull, co-developed backpropagation and the deep neural network architectures that power all of modern AI, resigned from Google to warn about AI dangers. I think we should be worried about AI going wrong in a variety of ways. Demis Hassabis, personal favorite. North London, Greek, Cypriot, and Chinese Singaporean heritage, chess master at 13. Wow. Co-founded DeepMind, acquired by Google. AlphaGo defeated the world Go champion. AlphaFold solved protein folding, as you do. Potentially the biggest scientific breakthrough of this century. All things I love are things which are deep and involve truth. Woman Oprah Gail Winfrey, Mississippi, born in poverty, raped at 9, run away at 13. Built a media empire from nothing. First black female billionaire, the most influential endorser in American history. One recommendation made books bestsellers overnight. The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. Sheryl Kara Sandberg, COO of Facebook Meta, Lean In became the manifesto of corporate feminism, the most publicly influential woman in Silicon Valley for a decade. In the future, there will be no female leaders. There will just be leaders. Sarah Treleaven Blakely, Clearwater, Florida. Laura's father sold. Lawyer's father. I mean, father is a lawyer. Lawyer's father. Doesn't, whatever. Sold fax machines door to door. Founded Spanx with $5,000 in savings. Built $1 billion company without any outside investment. The youngest self-made billionaire. The youngest self-made female billionaire in history. Damn. And I don't even know who you are. Embrace what you don't know, especially in the beginning. Okay, content creator, last classification or category. Content creator and digital pioneer. This is just a small one. Felix Arvid Ulf. You know, they actually have the hardest names out of all of them. Felix Arvid Ulf Kohlberg, or PewDiePie. From Sweden, studied industrial economics at Chalmers, dropped out. The most subscribed individual creator in YouTube history at 111 million subscribers. Pioneered the Let's Play format, the first internet celebrity to achieve mainstream fame. Bros, I am the type of person who looks at the past. James Stephen Donaldson, or Mr. Beast. Greenville, North Carolina, started posting at 13, obsessively studied viral video, the most viewed creator in YouTube history. reinvented philanthropy as entertainment, gave away millions on camera, building a media company from scratch. I'm going to be the biggest YouTuber. I've known that since I was 13. It wasn't lying. Olajide Olayinka Williams, JJ Olatunji, KSI, knowledge, strength, integrity, as I believe. I've been watching him since I was 9 years old, I believe. The UK's most viewed YouTuber, boxer, rapper, Prime Energy drink co-founder, built a multi-platform empire through audacity, consistency, and ruthless reinvention. Everything I do it 100%. Everything. Yoruba Nigerian parents, Watford, England. Started YouTube at 15. Logan Alexander Paul, Westlake, Ohio, sports-obsessed family, all-Ohio wrestler, from Vine to YouTube infamy to WWE superstar to Prime co-founder, the most resilient comeback story in creator history. The controversy made him. Whether you like me or hate me, you know who I am. McCann only got me there. I just got duped by Logan Paul. You actually did get me there. It's true. God damn. Jason Watkins Jr. I Show Speed. Cincinnati, Ohio. Started streaming at 15 during COVID lockdown. I started doing that too. I was 20. The most electrifying live streamer alive. His reactions, his Ronaldo obsession, his football travels turned him into a genuine global phenomenon at 17. I am the greatest streamer of all time. Speed. Okay, and that's it. This is the part of the video where we're doing the final ranking. I'm very excited. I haven't looked at it. Let's go through it. So this is the final ranking. Greatest impact on human civilization by Anthropos Cloud. I had some prompts, but it's ranked by lasting, measurable impact on the trajectory of human history, not by virtue or goodness. This ranking is a provocation, not a verdict. You can argue with it. So if anyone's watching this and wants to argue with it, you can say in the comments, what you think. I'll also probably have some words, but I'm just going to read it. Enough of the anticipation. Number 1, Jesus of Nazareth. Founded Christianity, 2.4 billion followers, reshaped morality, law, art, and political thought across 2,000 years. Number 2, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, founded Islam, 1.9 billion followers, shaped civilization from Spain to Indonesia across 14 centuries. 3, Aristotle of Stagira, systemized logic, science, and philosophy. Every field of knowledge for 2,000 years passed through him. 4, Sir Isaac Newton, made the universe lawful. Gravity, motion, calculus, the scientific revolution complete in one mind. 5, Charles Robert Darwin, natural selection, the most consequential idea in biology. Remade humanity's self-understanding. 6, Karl Heinrich Marx, reshaped the 20th century. Communism, revolution, the critique of capital that the century could not escape. 7, Albert Einstein, relativity and E equals mc squared, space, time, and energy transformed, also warned the world about the nuclear age. 8, Plato of Athens, the forms, the republic, the academy, Western idealist philosophy begins and mostly returns to him. 9, Confucius or Confucius, shaped East Asian civilization, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese moral and political thought for 2,500 years. 10, Siddhartha Gautama, Buddha, 500 billion followers, the Eightfold Path, the most complete system for reducing human suffering ever proposed. 11, William Shakespeare, the secular Bible, language, character, and the full map of human experience rendered permanently. 12, Napoleon Bonaparte, reshaped Europe, exported the revolution. Code Napoleon still governs 1.5 billion people's legal lives. 13, Gaius Julius Caesar, ended the Republic, gave rulers their title. His conquest of Gaul defined the map of France. 14, Socrates of Athens, invented the method of philosophy, was killed for it, everything after his commentary. 15, Genghis Khan of Temüjin, largest contiguous land empire connected to east and west, killed 40 million, 10% of the world. 16, Immanuel Kant, the Copernican revolution in philosophy. The mind structures experience ethics as categorical imperative. 17. Galileo Galilei. The empirical science against authority established a method that built the modern world. 18. Sigmund Freud. The unconscious, wrong in details, transformative in architecture. The language of inner life is his. 19. Johann Sebastian Bach, the mathematical spiritual foundation of Western music. Everything rests on his work. 20. Nicolaus Copernicus discovered humanity from the cosmic center, the biggest single change in how we understand our place. 21. Alan Mathison Turing, theoretical computing and AI, the machines that run everything began in his mind. 22. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, the deepest counterweight to Western rationalism in human history. 23. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, or Marie Curie. Mozart musical perfection made accessible. Curie, first dual Nobel radioactivity discovered. Oh yeah, Marie Curie is the one that casually founded radioactivity. 24. Francois-Marie Arouet, or Voltaire. The Enlightenment weaponized separation of church and state, religious tolerance, free speech. 25. George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. History is dialectic. Every major 19th and 20th century political movement is a response to him. 16. John Locke / Ludwig van Beethoven. Locke, natural rights and liberal democracy. Beethoven, music exploded to contain the full human condition. 27. René Descartes, I think therefore I am. Rebuilt knowledge, invaded analytical geometry, launched modern philosophy. 28. Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche. God is dead, the reevaluation of all values, Nazism, existentialism, postmodernism, all react to him. 29. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, natural freedom and the social contract, caused the French Revolution, shaped romantic thought. 30. Homer, the Iliad and Odyssey, the template for all Western narrative and the heroic ideal. 31. Dante Alighieri, Leonardo da Vinci. Dante, the greatest poem, Leonardo, the greatest polymath. 32. Michelangelo di Buonarroti or Plato. Michelangelo, technical summit of the Western art. Plato, listed again as the scale of his influence is hard to overstate. 33. Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky, the deepest excavation of the human soul, faith, freedom, suffering in the novel form. 34. David Hume, the great skeptic, showed caution in induction, can't be logically proven, woke Kant. Say that again. Woke Kant. Fun fact, did you know David Hume, actually his name was spelled with an O, H-O-M-E, but he changed it to Hume because everyone was pronouncing his name wrong. Anyway, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, the last polymath, Faust, Werther, botanical morphology, color theory, Germany's Shakespeare. 36. Hannah Arendt, totalitarianism, the banality of evil, defined political philosophy after the Holocaust. I'm sorry, but Hannah Arendt is not more influential than Aristotle. It's absurd. I'm sorry, I had to stop. I had to stop it. I think it's, 37. Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy. The broadest canvas in fiction, War and Peace, also influenced Gandhi directly through his writings. 38. Mary Wollstonecraft, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, the founding text of feminist philosophy, 1792. 39. Charles John Huffman Dickens, Social Reform Through Fiction, Change Victorian Legislation and the Treatment of the Poor. 40. John Stuart Mill, On Liberty, the Definitive Defense of Free Expression, also championed women's suffrage early. It's clearly a little bit of bias going on here, but whatever. I don't know. I am my third player, George Orwell, 1984, An Animal Farm, gave language to totalitarianism, Doublethink, Newspeak, Big Brother. 42. Niccolo Machiavelli, the prince political science, invented power described without more pretension for the first time. I think they put Marcus Aurelius on this list. Did they? 43. Simone Lucie de Beauvoir, The Second Sex, founded modern feminism as philosophy, influenced the women's movement globally. 44. Bertrand Arthur William Russell, Principia Mathematica, Russell's Paradox, Nuclear Disarmament, Logic and Conscience in One Life. 45. Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Augustus. Meditation, Stoicism, practice at the apex of power, read by leaders across 19 centuries. I believe he should be in the top 25 at minimum made. It's ridiculous. Ludwig Joseph Johann Wittgenstein, respect for putting him in there. As probably my favorite philosopher. That's pretty cool. The limits of language are the limits of our world. Change philosophy twice in opposite directions. Okay, they've put a Nazi on it. Martin Heidegger, Being and Time, the most important philosophical work of the 20th century, also a Nazi. It's the most important philosophical work of the 20th century. I don't know. Thomas Hobbes at 48. Leviathan, the social contract theory. The state as necessary to prevent war of all against all. 49. Jean-Paul Charles Aimard Sartre, or Sartre. Existence precedes essence. Existentialism made unpopular. The last philosopher as public celebrity. And finally, number 15, Baruch de Spinoza. God is nature, the boldest metaphysical system since Aristotle. They had to put Aristotle there. I cannot believe that. Einstein said he believed in Spinoza's God. Says, these are the Minds of History, Ultimate Edition, compiled for YouTube research, every name a universe, every quote a door, every life a question still open. So what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you not? Let us know.